Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Deep Culture Podcast. This is Fadli, your host. And once again, today we are here with a very special guest as well. But before I get into that, first things first. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoy the content and follow us for more. And if you're streaming this on Spotify or on Anchor, follow us on Spotify and Anchor as well to support us in our journey here, alright? And on top of that, if you guys haven't noticed, 2 weeks ago, I was discussing in my episode about what the new tagline for Deep Culture should be. And I came up with a couple of options and you guys gave your feedback. So thank you very much for all that lovely feedback. I have also gotten a couple more options that were shown to me. And I think I finally decided to settle on one. And if you guys haven't already noticed on Spotify, the new podcast art is basically saying deep culture, conversations to inspire. And I think that's what this podcast is all about. It's about having conversations with different people from all walks of life and sharing their experiences so that hopefully what they share can inspire you too. Right? The brand, inspire you too. So that's what this podcast is all about. And I think that tagline fits the most. So that's what we'll be going for. Right? So I hope today's conversation with my guest here, before I introduce him, my guest here is going to inspire you to have a little bit more happiness, a little bit more laughter in your life and in your workplace as well, because he's a professional coach, he's a professional consultant, and he's been doing this for many, many years. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ram
all right,
to the Deep Culture Podcast.
Just controlling my mouth.
He's been like a mime, like...
That was really deep conversations, man.
Welcome, Ram.
Welcome. Thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, no problem, man. How have you been?
Pretty awesome. Pretty good. COVID has now taught me a lot of things about social distancing, especially from food.
Food?
Yeah, because I think you eat a bit too much. My mom likes to feed a village. I'm that village.
Guys, if you don't already know, Ram is a big joker, and he is a good and great stand-up comedian, right? He has his own stand-up comedy show.
Comics at the Castle.
Comics at the Castle, which we'll talk about more later. But first, I want to get to know a bit more, or I want to share a bit more about you, Ram.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
What do you do, Ram?
What do I do? I either teach people how to laugh or I make people laugh. In short,
yeah,
using laughter exercises as one of the tools. I use comedy. My profession-wise, actually, I work as a corporate trainer. I teach people on service excellence, leadership, and people management.
Right.
And just try to find strategies that they can do to connect better with one another, so that they can ultimately function better and move up the ladder in their workplace.
Right. And do you integrate that laughter and happiness side into this leadership?
Part of it I do, because one of the things that, in order for you to make classes a bit more engaging, you got to have a bit more games,
right,
a bit more fun. So you can't start the session like a hello class. So you got to be like, what's up? And you got to like bring the energy level up.
Damn, yeah, you got the energy, all right. Yeah. So that's in summary what you do for your career?
It's partly that, because I think probably I think when we dig deeper into more insights,
right,
there's I think one of the fundamental purpose behind whatever I do is I see the world as a joyful and fun place, and I would aspire to get other people to also have a similar vision, to make their space a bit more fun, a bit more joyful, and so that they can actually be the best that they can be.
Right, nice.
So it's kind of like digging deeper, but first and foremost, you've got to unshackle all your worries and challenges, anxieties, problems, whatnot. You got to slowly dig it out and find ways to reframe it.
Wow.
And you got to adapt, accept, embrace it, and then you got to move on. The longer you get stuck on that prison, the longer you become your own prisoner.
I think right from the bat we already went deep right here.
Deep.
We did.
Deep conversations.
Deep culture, right?
Really deep.
Okay, let's start all the way from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. How did you get into this role of being interested in doing coaching, consulting, but also at the same time also comedy as well.
Okay, so maybe I would like to say, want to go really back, bring back to a childhood experience
Okay, yeah.
when probably I was about 7 years old, and I was supposed to do a stage play, and I was like really scared, terrified. We were supposed to do like this whole kung fu scene, and I was just like terrified. So many people in the audience, and I need to go on stage. So the very interesting thing is that I tripped and fell, and then instead of being embarrassed, I started hearing a sea of laughter in the crowd, and I didn't realize that I actually kind of caused that. So then I found avenues to accept that when I purposely, instead of fighting, I purposely missed the target and the board, they started laughing more.
Right.
And I realized that, I found some techniques of getting people to laugh at that age where it was okay to actually put yourself down. So in comedy, they have this self-deprecating humor.
Right, okay.
So you tend to accept it, and then you just move on with life. So imperfection was perfectly fine for me, and I never did strive for perfection.
Okay.
So when you look at status-wise, the opinion of other people didn't really affect me.
Okay.
But then over time, as you get older and you get entangled with all this emotional mess,
Yeah.
you tend to have your sad days. But the challenge is that the more you become sad, the space around you also becomes sad.
Yeah.
And many people start to repel away from you. And I didn't like that, so I just wanted to have more people come and gather around, so it feels a bit more cohesive.
Right.
So then I found that one of the things that I had to do was also to entertain. Another story I have was that when I was traveling with my folks, also at a very young age,
Yep.
maybe this was 9 years old.
Okay.
We were somewhere overseas, a foreign country. There's a lot of white people, so I don't. It could be Australia, it could be America. I have no idea. One of those countries. Just a lot of white people. So, yeah, this is not being racist, but this is a lot of white people. So
one of them. Yeah,
just
one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I went there, let me tell my story.
Yeah.
So I actually noticed that everybody in the bus was like as if they went to a funeral, like all was sad and like upset. Then I just felt like this is not right. So I just went up, and there was this big bunny in the front of this small van.
Okay.
And what I did was I just started entertaining myself, imitating the bunny, because at that point in time I actually broke some of my teeth. I only had this two front teeth, so I
Like
kind
the
of
Bugs Bunny kind of thing.
Bugs Bunny thing. Then I started doing the same action, and then people in the bus started laughing, and they got kind of amused and entertained. And probably that was one of my few shows that I did at such an early age.
You didn't even know it.
I didn't even know it. I didn't even get paid for it. But it was an experience where you noticed when people they were looking at you, you felt this energy of wanting to actually give them back with a bit more expression. So hence, there's a lot more expressions that I started to do and entertain people.
So, would you say that that's okay? I think the first question I have for when it comes to comedy and making people laugh is it natural? Is it a natural thing that you have or you don't have, or is it something that you can work on?
A lot of times, comedy, when you least expect it, people start laughing. It's partially to do with the truth. There's some form of tension behind it.
Okay.
So the more you accept the truth, and when you speak about it, people need to find a way of releasing.
Right.
So it's like clearing the throat. Like some of my neighbors, early morning. You got to clear their throat. But the same
I think we got the same neighbors.
They're just everywhere. You don't need alarm clock. They just wake you up in the morning. Don't even have a rooster. So you got
Evolution, bro.
Evolution. So back to these neighbors. It's a form of like suppression that you want to find a way to release out.
Right.
So many times, like when we are growing up, we have all these parents and teachers say, "Shh, you cannot make noise, okay?" And so they kind of condition you to. So you then became the silent laughter. So even when people are laughing, like with no sound.
Right.
So whenever I do a comedy show and I hear there's no sound but people are laughing, I know they're my generation.
The one who has been told to keep quiet.
Yeah, keep quiet. So they're like, and you can see them like kind of like wanting to express out. Then you got another group of people who just got no volume control, like just literally, they are super loud, and they're just like another neighbor nearby. They are like 3 or 4 blocks away, and they're just like as if they swallowed an amplifier.
Right.
Like, hello. Yeah. Yeah. So back to the part. It's about releasing out whatever suppression and feelings that you have. So comedy can be developed if you start going deeper inwards. Obviously, you can make a lot of jokes on many situations.
Right.
You can just say certain words like a plan,
A plan.
and if you add East Coast in front of it,
Oh,
tension,
right.
tension. You see,
Well, yeah.
So these are small things that we won't want to talk about, but somehow or another, people could resonate with it because they could remember, but it has to be also relevant.
Right.
So if it happened like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and then 10 years ago, and you say, I have a pen, I have an apple,
Oh, yeah.
and Apple
Apple
pen,
pen, yeah.
it doesn't really connect. So you got to also be with the times itself.
I see.
So you have to be observant and see what's happening.
Okay.
So one of the things that over the years I've started learning about comedy or even telling jokes is some of the stories that were funny to me may not be funny to other people.
Right.
So it's also about being observant and listening, and listening not only with your ears, with your eyes, and see and get the feedback of what is it that people actually laugh about.
Sorry, can I just ask you this question as you're mentioning it? Because I do face this sometimes as well. Like, and in my head it goes on like this. Maybe this target group or the people the audience who's listening aren't my kind of audience. Is that, or could it be that I have to adapt my jokes to them?
Which
one is it?
Not necessary. You basically, when you find your own voice, you find your own truth. You find people resonating with you, like just like a YouTube channel.
Right.
Not everybody's going to like the content material that we have. Maybe it's the look we have or the words that we say. Some or other, they may not click or resonate. You've always got the namesayers, you've got the haters and whatnot. These will not be your audience. You will want to find a tribe, a group of people who kind of like the thing and they resonate with what you're saying. So once they are in sync, whatever that you're sharing, you can just start to connect. And that's one of the key things, that you want to find a group of people who are in sync with you.
Right.
Then to synchronicity.
Synchronicity,
Your
yeah.
uncle. Shout out to Philip Mary.
Right.
So you have to be in sync, and so once you're in sync with the person, the audience, they resonate, they connect with you, they can relate to you. But if they cannot relate to you, then no matter what you say, it just feels like an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. Like, I just can't, I can't see this person's face. I just no, just take it away. Just no.
But then, I mean, as a stand-up comedian, right? You can't choose your audience, or as in you won't know whether they resonate with you. So,
yeah.
How do you deal with that then? in that process?
You learn from the hecklers.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think after some point in time, you will be able to fine tune and you will be able to understand which works and which doesn't work. So
there's one that works for the general.
There's some which is a very like common, very universal, and there are a lot of themes that relate to you and me. So like for example, relationships is one of those things.
Right.
Relationship with food is another thing, because that's something that a relationship with the toilet is it's like you didn't expect that, right? So that's an example that sometimes you also need to catch people by surprise.
Right.
So the element of if they can predict it, they may not laugh because they are because they are rethinking.
Right.
So but if they're not thinking, they're laughing. So the best is to get them to the state to not think, just laugh.
And how do you do that?
Through laughter exercises.
Okay.
So you can do simple laughter exercises. So you say I do dual. So either I try to use your wit,
Right.
or I try to use some kind of a rhyming thing, but I don't want to use that term. But you know it in your mind, but
Do you?
so I do some laughter exercises which actually relates to movement, and I'll share with you a story about that how this movement I'm able to bridge a gap to get people to remember information much faster.
Okay. There's a connection to that?
There is a connection to that.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So if maybe you want me to share the story, I can just share the story now, and then I'll just
Yeah,
forward.
please.
So have you been to Mustafa Shopping Center?
Yes, I have.
Fantastic service. Huh? So I did a customer 2 thumbs up. So certainly. So I went to.
Sarcasm is real, man.
Yeah. They're my people, man. Ane, hey. So back to my story.
Yeah, I'm waiting, man. I'm
Yeah.
waiting.
So I was doing a customer service training program. It was called a certified service professional.
Right.
And one of the elements in that course was called Go the Extra Mile.
Okay.
So then I was trying to share the same concept to this group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this big sized guy, looks very big. and I was trying to teach him, and I realized that I felt we are not in sync.
Okay.
So then I was like looking at him and I asked him, said, his name was Muthu. I said,
Muthu. Okay.
somehow or another, it's a common name, but it just happened to be Muthu.
Right.
So when I was speaking to Muthu, and I was talking to him, I said, do you understand about gems? Then I said, yeah, sir, 2nd floor. I said, not that gems. I said, going the extra mile. And his second sentence is, sir, go where? I said, no, not that going where. I said, go the extra mile gems. And after lunch, can you show me what is gems now? At
Right.
least. And after lunch, he brings me strawberry gem, blueberry gem. And I'm like, this is like a mind your language experience. And I was like wondering, how am I going to make him remember this 10 gems? Just for them to remember. Then I started talking to him and I started to listen. And I found out that one of the things he liked was dancing. He likes roti prata.
Okay.
He knows GST means money and whatnot. So then I realized, okay, what can I do? So I got him to do movement. So I did this look good, feel great. And I
Okay.
just got him to repeat that. And when I tested him again, he could repeat exactly the same thing. So it makes me recap back in, all this learning where you have learners who are visual,
Yeah.
auditory, and
Yeah.
kinesthetic. Not everyone can listen to you. Some people need visual images.
Right.
So that's why I illustrate.
Yeah.
But some people need movement. So that's why you have
Kinesthetic.
role play, you have all these actions that they do. So when I got him to do that movement, he was able to remember that information.
Yeah.
So once you can remember some of those vital information, you find that it's a kind of a trigger itself that you're able to do. So, and many people would have done in a lot of these talks and all, ask you to raise your finger and all that, and then take your finger and put it on your chin, and then you said that no, chin is actually over here.
Yeah.
And then
They made a fool out of you.
made a
and
fool
everything.
But the whole concept behind it is that what they're trying to relate is that people tend to follow the behavior versus what you're saying. So they follow the behavior.
Is that to say that they are more visual
Visual.
rather
So
than
visual,
auditory?
visual to some extent, but at the end of the day, a lot of us, we tend to observe and follow the behavior of the person.
Right.
So when people talk about their character and all that, say that this guy's really funny, but he's always like, the face is like, oh, money, pay money face. Then you know that it doesn't sync well.
Right.
And so you want to find that these two things start to match. So what you say must match with what you do. If what you say and what you do, it doesn't match, you'll get a bit affected. So
Yeah.
give you this analogy of what you say and what you do. What you say is the same like promise, what you do is like just like same like delivery. Have you gone to those restaurants where you were seduced by the picture of the food?
Yes.
You walked inside and then you saw the food and you just like were conjuring your mind, oh, I'm going to eat that food.
Yeah, man.
Nasi lemak, like, and then the food comes and then it's, no, I didn't order this. the picture is very different from the.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Then you look at this fish that looks like the ikan bilis.
Is it a fish?
Is it a fish? Yeah. And then you're like, you feel a bit cheated.
Right.
It's because that promise and the delivery. So the same thing works with us. Like what we say have to match with what we do.
Right.
So even if we tell a joke, we almost feel like we are telling the joke. Like there has to be that in sync.
So you must, in a way, it's also you have to believe that you are telling a joke.
You have to believe lah. So a lot of times when even you want to tell that joke to people, if you don't buy into the joke, that conviction shows in your face.
Right. Right.
So one of the things that you want to do, and why many people laugh at comedians is a lot of the jokes they say, they have invested, they've committed 100% in what they're doing. So let's relate this back into your life.
Yes.
Put 100% whatever you're doing. Don't half past 6. Invest 100% in whatever you're doing. Whether is it cooking, whether is it eating, 100%. Don't think about it, your girlfriend, this problem, that problem. Live for the moment, be present, enjoy that experience. Later on, have that worry. Park it aside.
Hmm.
So, one of the things that I try to use laughter is to break that state. Because many people are still caught in that moment, right?
Right.
I get them to take their palms out, look at their stress, bring it close to them, just kiss it. They won't do that. So what I get them to do is to breathe in and release out with a gentle laughter.
Scared me there. Man. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because you notice I said gentle, but then I did the
You went
explosive,
yeah.
right? It's because you need to release out. And the more you release out, whatever that you have, you feel lighter. Not with the heavy food, but you still feel you feel lighter.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways. I think that's why a lot of people use shouting when they're fighting and all that. Shouting and screaming is one of the avenues to release that stress.
When you're talking about that, couple of days ago, sometimes with all this COVID virus and people get tense,
Right.
and then there's this need to wear a mask,
Yep.
and then there's always this vigilantes, this phone warriors that like to videotape. So there was one episode that I happened to see in Amokyo where this guy was like not happy, and they was like this guy was shouting behind the counter and using all his vulgar language at just started shouting,
Right.
and he just kept on, and then there was just an audience. But my mind was like wondering what stops him from just going across. And he doesn't. He just decides to stand there and shout.
Right.
And just creating that. So after some point, I noticed that people just want to release.
Yep.
But they may not want to do it, but they just want to release it out.
It's a build-up that's...
Yeah, but when push comes to shove, when you get closer, then there might be the whole fight or flight, and then the whole face value and all that, and then they get into this.
Right.
But it's just very interesting to observe that there are many people who just have all these pent-up frustration, and they want to voice it out, but they don't do anything about it. So one of the things that at least you can do is release out that frustration.
Yeah.
Because once it comes out, you feel a bit more relaxed.
So, and that's what you do in both, in your career, basically, in the coaching and consulting industry.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, so one of the things that I try to help people do is just there may be certain blockages that people have that I just try to find ways to reframe that.
Okay.
And once they find like a aha moment, and a lot of this is done through asking questions. But the most important thing is people must be first and foremost be more willing to open up. Okay. So it's either, so there's a spectrum of whether you are narrow-minded or you're broad-minded. So a person who tends to be a bit broad-minded, they're more willing to invest in listening, finding out.
Right.
And people who are more narrow-minded, they say, I know everything. I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you have to deal with whatever that is presented in front of you.
Yeah.
But don't get affected. Easy said than done. But
yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you not get affected by those things?
so you have to find a way to recharge. Like a battery, like your handphone battery. We also need to recharge. So in order to recharge, we need to sleep well. We need to find a quiet space to meditate.
Yeah.
But try to find a time where your neighbor doesn't practice violin.
You have one?
Yeah, I got one. Still learning. They're like, yeah. And then you got another baby, newborn baby, just decides to cry. And then, I want my toy now! And then you're like, okay. And then you're like trying to have this peace and quiet. Finally, have this peace and quiet. All of a sudden, your mom says, what do you want to eat? And then you're like, okay. Let's have this peace of mind finally. So you got to find that.
That space, yeah.
That space, ultimately, you have to find. And we can always complain that we don't have the space, but there is a point of time that we can find that space. And sometimes it could be even in the toilet. But my toilet is an amplifier for the whole block because you can hear every conversation. So just be careful. Whenever you decide to have any private information, don't share it in a HDB toilets because you can hear everything. Everything. breathing, snoring, snouting, everything you can do. So your privacy, it doesn't become private anymore. Lah.
Got it. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, since we are already in, I think we've gone back and forth between your the stand-up comedy job and stand-up comedy role
Hobby.
and your coaching consulting job,
Yes.
right? So since we are on the topic of the coaching and consulting one, tell us a bit more, like when you say that you do leadership courses and seminars for clients, right? What kind of leadership trainings do you do?
Okay, so one of the things that I'm very fascinated with is engaging people in terms of trying to not say profile them, but just looking at certain traits that they may have,
Right.
or certain behaviors they may exert. And then there will always be some common problems that people,
Patterns, right?
patterns that
Yeah.
they face.
Mm.
So what I do is that I tend to share a bit of insights, a bit of through my session. So what I do is I try to make it entertaining
Mm-hmm.
with a scenario of stories.
Okay.
Give you an example, like on a day-to-day, a daily basis, a talk that I would give, where I will share with people that, have you had the experience before when somebody cuts your lane and spoils your day?
Uh-huh.
And then they'll say, yeah, it's quite a common thing.
Yeah.
And then you're like very angry with this person somehow or another.
Mm.
And then later another person comes in and then doesn't give you way, and then you're getting more and more
Agitated. Yeah.
And then your whole mood seems to be ruined.
Yeah.
And I tell them that, but the person who has just cut your lane has moved on,
Mm.
and you're still remembering.
Living in that moment, right? Yeah.
And I just share with people, if you want to have the end result for you to be happy, what is the new meaning you can change to that experience? So I said that when the person who cut your lane,
Right.
he just decided to become your bodyguard. So if there's any accident, he's the first to go. Think about it. There's a smile in some people's face, huh?
Yeah.
So then
I'm
immediately
thinking about
you're
it,
like
that perception creates a change. Right?
change. So we have to find ways to give new meaning to every experience that we have.
New stories, basically. Right?
New stories, new experience. When you shift that little thing, that meaning inside, a lot of things starts to change around us.
Mm.
And that meaning and story can happen by listening to their story.
Okay.
So instead of conjuring up our own stories, we can listen. We don't need to find new material. Material presents in front of us
Right.
on a day-to-day basis.
Uh-huh.
Every experience that you and I go through, there would be certain element of truth behind it,
Yep.
and some kind of a tension that people want to just release out. Just talk about it.
Right. So Ram, so are you saying that this is a big issue here in Singapore, that people aren't able to express, or they have so much pent up, what is it, anger, frustration, stress?
Not everyone. Quite a few people that I meet and have a chat with, there has been a lot of their own, or they replay certain stories on a continuous basis,
Right.
and they can't seem to come out of it.
Okay.
There are usual problems that they face at the workplace, at home, money issues, money troubles, just name it, whatever. Now there's another challenge of not able to socialize and get to know their friends and family members, not able to celebrate, to go to a party, so many things that they can't do. There's a lot more frustrations than ever.
Right.
I tend to even speak to people that violence seems to be also on the rise. So, and there's a lot of unhappiness and stress, and people are having this worry of losing their job and what can I do next.
Yep.
So one of the things that I find an opportunity is to let people not give up hope, and at least telling some comedy and jokes helps to distract them, take away them from the problem momentarily, and then possibly find a possible idea or solution that they can do to become better. So a lot of times, even in my training sessions, coaching sessions, or even in entertainment,
Right.
I try to have a bit of a positive spin to it,
Okay.
because a lot of times it's a cause and effect. Whatever you plant seeds, it results in a fruit or flower.
Right.
So what kind of a fruit and flower that you want to manifest, it all depends on us. If you want a bad fruit, you plant bad seeds.
Right.
And if you want a good fruit, you plant good seeds.
Mm.
So I try to encourage people, plant good seeds. So at least you can sell them. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
It's ultimately you're adding value to another person.
Right. You're really good at the. You were mentioning the unexpected jokes.
And actually, I don't know where it comes from. It just comes out.
Okay. I have a question. It was one of those things for me that I found a challenge as well in this coaching consulting industry. Is that you know your strengths now is in a sense like you know that you bring humor, you bring happiness into the workplace and all this. How then do you come up with content to deliver to clients?
A lot of times, again, it comes back from listening and asking questions
Mm-hmm.
to find out what are some of their pre-existing challenges, concerns, and worries. Like, for example, when you go and see a doctor,
Right.
the doctor doesn't tell his problems to the patient.
Mm.
The doctor asks, what are the problems that you are facing?
Right.
Where is it aching?
Mm.
And then he just listens and then gives you a prescription.
Mm.
So the same thing functions in a joke where you just have to take these elements of the concern and find an alternative solution.
Okay.
And that alternative solution is the punchline. So you know, this is the one where the person cuts your lane
Yeah.
and then becomes your bodyguard. There's so many other variations you can think of what he does. He really wanted to protect you. He wanted to become your body shield. And you can go deeper into that. I mean, deep. into this whole thought process.
Right.
So it's about exploring the different perspectives of things that you don't see. Because when we tend to fixate an opinion, we miss out a lot of details.
Right.
Now it's just to revisit those details.
Hmm.
Because there are many sides that we can look at a situation,
Right.
not just one point of view.
Yeah.
So it's about just exploring that
Different.
different differences. Like you might have heard of an old story of the 6 blind men were put around an elephant, and each was told to describe what an elephant is to them.
Okay.
And everyone had a different perspective. One felt it was a wall. One felt it was like a pillar.
Okay.
One felt it was a fan. It's just describing different parts that we are surrounded an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody, I mean, they all were right in their own paradigm.
Right.
But the elephant has got all these parts of their body that could be a pillar, could be a wall, could be a fan. And it's about discovering the other person. So as we explore and we connect with another person, there's a lot of things that we tend to ignore, but there are also things that we discover and we find.
Right.
Some things we like, some things we don't like.
Yep.
Sometimes we just tend to ignore the things that we don't like, and we just focus on the things that we like. Sometimes we just focus on the things we don't like, and we ignore the things that we like.
Yeah.
So it's finding that balance. So as much as I tell jokes about my mom overfeeding me,
Okay.
the other side of the truth is that I've got low self-control. And I cannot stop eating. It's like a kind of a drug. I'm like addicted to food. It's like whenever I see ice cream, and I just
Tick.
ice cream and take and then worry later It's comfort food, so it becomes comfortable, and then you have like this. You see, like skinny people and have all these skinny cells and all that, right? They tend to like become alienated to one another. They are angry, and they try to push you and rebel. Fat people are friendly. Like, hey, what's up? Long time no see. And they just hug you, and they don't let you go. They're so inclusive. Like, especially they want the more the merrier. It's like they're literally saying the more we get together. And then it just kind of builds up.
Is this one of the jokes that you tell?
Look, this is like in the making. So I don't have time to tell those jokes on stage. At least I can do it in a podcast. Why not?
It's still out there anyway.
It's still out there. There might be 5 views, 5 audience members. But you have to stay throughout the end of this video to actually get the maximum benefit for those who are still watching.
Okay, so You got me distracted now, and I'm trying to figure out what was I. There was a question I had in mind.
You were equally distracted.
Okay. Yeah. When you, for you, right? You mentioned it's about coming up with the, when you hear the client's problems, and then it's about coming up with a solution that's also like a hilarious kind of alternative.
Actually, ultimately, you got to first and foremost understand what is it the client wants. What is the intention behind the whole thing? What is the outcome that he wants? What is it that he wants at the end of the day?
Right.
So a lot of times you have to find ways to match whatever that he wants at the end of the day. If you can match, just like the food I was talking about,
Yeah.
you will find that there will be a greater element of trust.
Right.
And if you exceed his expectation, he'll want
More.
So you have to find ways to add value to him and to really understand what is it that he's looking for.
Right.
So if he's looking to gel the team, to get the team connected, then you want to find ways and strategies to get people to be connected with one another.
Right.
If you find that there's a lot of tension that is going on with you get an opportunity to talk about different topics, but find ways to reframe the content so that they get a chance to understand a different perspective.
Okay. So sorry. So correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, it's not so much about making it fun and humorous in your trainings, but it's more about reframing your mind. Is it?
Reframing the mind is one thing, but it's also to understand what is the end result that you're expecting.
Okay.
If the end result is that you want the team to have a stronger bond with each other, you have the end in mind, and then you work your script around it.
Okay.
So, as storytellers, as people who write and craft things, ultimately it's how you angle it. So it also depends on the context, on how you want to frame things.
Right.
If you like, it's just like a premise that you put a situation or a joke. It functions differently in different locations.
Yeah.
Like, for example, laughter is fantastic, but not in a funeral.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
That's the context. You see, it's just when you shift it to another location,
Doesn't fit.
it doesn't fit.
Right.
To a library, it doesn't fit. So you've got to find a place that it perfectly fits very well. Maybe the Parliament House.
Maybe. Maybe they need that.
Tension there.
Just like that.
Just like that. But you got to find a way to release that tension.
Yeah.
And you got to find that opportunity to express yourself. Because it's like a muscle. When you practice, so I'll give you an example. If I get a person to do this action and switch it around.
Right.
Try and see.
I've
So
tried.
bunny facing outwards,
Yeah,
gun,
that-
and then switch it to bunny and gun. Okay? So it becomes easy, right?
It becomes easier over time.
Over time, but initially you make a mistake. Then some
Yeah.
people will like this bunny, hands. Then we try another one. 2 inwards, 3 outwards. When you're ready, switch it around.
Damn, bruh.
See, notice, right? When you do this and you just shift the heads, it becomes a classical dance.
That's where they got it from.
But what I'm trying to highlight is that this hand action
Yeah.
is also about a practice. So when you keep doing it regularly,
Yeah.
it becomes your second nature. It's the same like you're playing an instrument like piano.
Right.
So the first time when you're trying to play with one hand, you're so used to playing this one hand.
Yep.
And then when you're trying to introduce this other hand, and then you're like, it's
Yeah.
not coordinating.
Yep.
I still have the challenge because my niece can play with both hands. I'm still struggling with one hand.
I mean, even when I play the piano as well, it's like, it's one hand first and then the other. The way I learned it is like, right hand masters the thing first, and then after that the left hand can follow afterwards. Because otherwise I find it's like it's too much to.
For me, I just use technology. I just record one side, and then I play the other while I'm playing the other one.
Oh yeah, that's another way to do it.
Perfect, because it's split screen. You can just put
Yeah,
right hand, left hand.
that's cool, man.
And then you put the lighting and all that. It doesn't look like it's, it's like 2 hands playing. But you look carefully, it's just 2 different timelines.
Continuity.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that you will be able to pick it up over time when you show a bit more interest and focus in it.
Right.
And then it becomes like a habit.
Okay.
So likewise, now bringing back to the point of the coaching experience and how you have got the client has got their problems, right?
Yep.
Focus on what is it that they really want.
Hmm.
So I share with you a simple technique that I use in any, even like can be used in service recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It's called triple A. First A is acknowledge, The second A is assess, and the last A is alternative.
Okay.
Feels like a teaching moment.
Sounds
So-
like a battery, bro.
Sound like a battery. Triple A.
Triple A.
The triple A battery. Ever ready. Or energizer.
Energizer.
Or now there's a competition.
Duracell. Okay, anyway.
Duracell. Anyway, do we get any advertising
No.
for this? Okay.
I wish I did, but
Yeah.
not yet. Subscribe, guys. Subscribe.
Leave a comment below, like, share. Engagement is very important.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, do that. So coming to the triple A, the first A is acknowledge, is giving the person the importance.
Yep.
So trying to put yourself in their shoes and see what is their pain point. And once you understand that, then you want to assess from the point of view of their needs, but also what is it that you can offer. So if it's a company and a client, it's the company's policies, SOPs, does that match with the needs of the customer?
Right.
So you ask questions to find out so that you strike a balance. But the last A is that if you can solve it, fantastic. But if you cannot solve it, just don't
Alternative.
say no. You find an alternative. Like for your example, a friend of mine was trying to schedule me to do lunchtime laughter talks. And somehow or other, the person who wanted me to do actually the dates didn't match. So the first day didn't match, the second day didn't match, the third day didn't match. Then it's not that I'm very busy, it's just so happily those days I've got work.
Right.
And those days that the client's asking, I'm not able to. I can just end it there. But I understand that they are looking for a similar speaker or a person who can do on the capacity. So what I did was I connected that person with another friend of mine. So the moment when I did that, I found a way to solve their problem still.
Still, yeah.
And that person still calls me and asks, how come the person is not answering my phone call? It's perfectly okay, but you see that
You're
person
providing an alternative.
but that person now starts to trust you.
Yeah.
Instead of ending that relationship, now that person is in your mind.
Right.
So if there's another gig that matches, they will say, hey, why don't we call this person and see what's he or she all about?
Right.
So it's not closing the door, and the last A was alternative. So how do we find alternatives and not a dead end to the people who come to you with their requests?
Very nice.
Find another alternative.
Very nice. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
And it's a good battery.
Battery.
Yeah, I like that battery very
The
much.
triple A.
Yeah, triple A.
Can reduce it to double A.
Okay, so how are you right now, especially during this COVID-19 period? How are you actually implementing this? I mean, because I don't think you are able to do live trainings right now.
No,
Is it still?
it depends. So I still do conduct a bit of live training with social distancing measures in place.
Right.
Wearing this face shield, look a bit like Darth Vader, and wearing the mask. The effectiveness will still be compromised.
Right.
But you just have to find ways to work around it. I do a lot of virtual online class.
Yeah, I'm thinking it has to shift that way, right?
And it's a matter of adjusting because a lot of times you have got a lot of participants who are you're just facing a screen, and they can actually do anything. They
Right.
can appear like they are looking at you, but they're doing their own work,
Mm.
and you can't stop them. You just have to find ways to engage them. So what I do is that I will find new ways to create breakout rooms, to connect with them, to share stories. And a lot of times the stories, if it's appealing to them, they tend to be a bit more, they tend to listen a little bit more.
Okay.
So what I do is I get a chance for each person to introduce, to share. I make it a habit to get them to talk in groups constantly.
But how do you do that on a virtual platform, though?
Possible. You just get to choose one person who can be your ally. Get that person to choose the next person.
Okay.
So now what you're doing, you are Tai Chi to the other person. Tai Chi, by the way, is you're just pushing the responsibility to the other person, and you get the other person
I got that, right?
responsible. So I didn't get to ask you to that person.
Your friend did
your
it.
friend, your friend called you, and someone other they feel a bit more comfortable from a peer to peer, and from there you get them to interact, and then you just have to find a way to manage the situation.
Okay.
So this actually brings me to an experience long ago when I was doing a talk for a school live session, 300 people.
Right.
Wouldn't want to mention the name of the institute. somewhere in Amokyo. So there was like 300, some 300 over people there, and the session went at about 2 o'clock, and there was like 15 rows empty, and I was asking them to come in front, but they didn't want to move.
Right.
And I asked like 2 or 3 times, they didn't want to move. So instead of fighting the system, I made the 15th row my first row. Means I walked towards them.
Okay.
And they were like awkwardly like, now why is this guy so near? But that dynamics change. You have to find a way to adapt to the situation. And that's what I did. I just found a way to adapt so that you have to bridge the gap. But you must have that courage to move forward. And if you don't have the courage and you back off, then you notice that you will get
trapped by what's happening around
you.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to change the space around you. And this determines, this is about moving forward.
The courage to do
Yeah,
it.
definitely you have to take the courage. You got to step up and you got to move forward. So life will throw you situations like, even when you do laughter, you do stand-up comedy, people will ridicule, they won't laugh at your jokes.
Yeah.
They will say a lot of nonsensical things. But this brings me to a simple story that you might find this as a form of a memory.
Okay.
Have you heard the story of grandfather, grandson, and a donkey?
And a donkey, no.
Okay, this grandfather wanted to make his journey much easier.
Right.
So he got a donkey and he wanted a companion, so he brought his grandson along.
Okay.
So then they were traveling from village to village, and they were like happily. And then later he felt sad for his grandson, had to travel all this distance. He took his grandson on the donkey, went on the journey, and then went to one of the villages, and then started hearing the villagers whispering, "What a terrible kid! Can make old men walk."
Oh, right.
And he felt so sad for his grandson. He took his grandson down and he decided to sit on the donkey. And then when he went to the next village, how can make small boy walk? Terrible old man. And then he took his grandson on his lap and sat on the donkey and went to the next village. Go to the next village. 2 people sitting on one poor donkey.
Right.
So he felt so sad. Both of them decided to carry the donkey. So see the moral of the story. Sometimes we can always be an opinion and hear the opinion of other people.
Right.
But imagine if you let the opinion of other people run your life, you're not running based on your own purpose. You must stop, decide, and you must really know that what are some words that people say, they can steer you in a direction.
I think it's important also to know what are your values and where you stand, so that you stick to your path.
What is your purpose? What is your compass? What is your true north? What is it that you really want? For me, ultimately, I want to get people to laugh, to be happy, and I want to give them that opportunity to release and reframe, so that they can actually stay back on track and not become a prisoner of their own experiences.
Right.
And move forward. There's always an alternative. There is always an option. There's always a way out for you to express yourself.
Yep. That's lovely, man.
In a fun-filled way.
And I think that's important, in a fun-filled way, because I think most people have this feeling like, if I want to break out of where I am, it's going to be painful. It's going to be a rough journey. Yeah.
Sing that song. I want to break free. With the hands faced like that. No. I want to break free. Free.
Free! Alright, okay, I
Especially
think...
people like the word free, right?
Singaporeans?
Say shh.
Oh, shh.
Cannot.
The people?
Pofma.
There'll be a beep there. Okay, anyway. Okay, I think we've covered more or less about this coaching consulting. Let's move towards your comedic side of... I don't really know. Comedic gigs? What do I call this? Is there a term for it?
It's called stand-up comedy.
Yeah, but what is that? Is that a hobby? Is that a gig? Is that a project?
Yeah, so they have shows, regular open mic shows.
Right.
They have events that take place. So we have a show every last Friday of the month, Comics at the Castle.
Ah, okay.
We are on Facebook and like us, Comics at the Castle.
Link will be down below.
And we have shows that we put up, and we actually had one show just before the circuit breaker, and what we did was we got all these comedians to perform to Facebook Live,
right?
And there was like no audience members.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How's
so that was an experience. It's on the Facebook page, and then the whole circuit breaker went, and then we're not allowed to do all this public entertainment. So then some of the comedians wanted to just do some jokes. So we decided to have a Zoom online comedy show. And it was very interesting because there was the first comic act was actually doing his set, and
Okay.
the host accidentally mutes everyone, including the comedian. And I'm telling he's just telling his jokes,
Right.
and he doesn't realize that he's silent. Then I actually tell him that, can you tell your jokes again? Because nobody heard it.
Okay, there's a saying that, oh yeah, but then again, nobody heard it. But I know if you say the joke again twice, it doesn't quite have the same impact, right?
But this one they never heard it.
Right. But for the person telling it though, can
Is-
you still have that kind of same impact and same energy?
You just reset it again, but but
It does
it's-
have an impact,
It
though, right?
definitely has an impact to some extent. It's like you don't want to repeat your joke again twice, unless you got dementia. Oh, pardon me.
Jokes, guys, jokes.
Jokes only.
Jokes. Okay, so stand-up comedy, you had experiences when you were young that showed you that comedy was one of the things that you can do, one of the things you want to do. How did you take your steps forward into that stand-up comedy scene?
So probably I think I was inspired with a lot of comedians, but I just made a shout out to a friend Rishi Budrani. So he actually was one person who pushed me and said, "Hey, why don't you try to go on stage?" And this was actually in Blue Jazz.
Okay.
They was not allowed to do comedy there. I had talk comedy.
But you did it anyway.
But we did it. So I did the show and I did a few, but then I left for 9 months. Not that I was pregnant, but
Yeah, man, the 9 months is a bit.
just sound like 9 months. But then I came back again to do comedy, and I realized that in that whole space there was a lot of digging deeper into your dark
Right.
moments in your life, and which was trying to address those painful moments. So when we relive those painful moments, it can be quite scary for an individual. But if you have an opportunity to look of a different perspective, to change it a bit around,
Right.
you find that there's actually an opportunity to release it out through a laughter.
Okay.
So then I start seeing that all the challenges and problems that I have on a day-to-day basis, eventually it becomes like a possibility of a joke. So I give you an example.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I went to this Yishun, they have a market called Chompang
Chongpang. Yeah.
Market.
Yep.
And my timing was so unbelievable where I was just walking. Thinking it's an amazing, fantastic day, just walking, strolling about. Timing was such that an older lady was trying to feed her kid. And she said, "Eat your food now, this fella will take you back home." And then the kid is like looking at me and like, and I'm like, and then like wondering what is this interaction between me and this kid. And the kid is just looking at me and saying, "I don't want to go back home with you." And I'm telling the kid, "I didn't invite you." So instead of being hurt, you notice you can turn this around and make it into a joke.
Right.
So instead of getting offended by the whole experience, find an opportunity to change the direction. Make that into a story. Make that into something that is powerful.
Right.
An opportunity for people to relate and laugh. Because many people would have faced a similar situation where it was not because of them, because of another person creating a situation or problem, and you're just having this tension between two people.
Yeah.
And these two people, now you just have this dialogue.
Yeah.
So once you can address and acknowledge that experience, you find that there's a moment for us to release it and reframe.
Interesting.
So just find an opportunity. So even another example where it's one of my earlier jokes that I tell people, where sometimes people there's a situation when sometimes people tend to correct the pronunciation of your name.
Yep.
I had one experience when I went to Starbucks, thinking it was a fantastic experience. By the way, also I ended up training Starbucks. One full circle. So shout out to Starbucks.
Starbucks.
All right. This was my joke experience when I still kept telling those jokes. By the way, I used to train with Mustafa as well. So a lot of times
All
when
your clients,
yeah,
basically.
the jokes that become our clients. I even had jokes about McDonald's, then they became my clients. Yes.
Really?
So I think I should tell more jokes about those companies.
Do
Eventually
it
they
and do a
become
full
my-
episode on it.
Yeah. So I started talking about the parliament. But they'll become my clients as well. So coming back to the Starbucks experience, and I went to Starbucks and I was ordering a drink, and I think the pronunciation of the drink was called a mocha frappuccino.
Okay.
So then I met this lady and I said, hello. She said, hello. I said, oh no.
Haru?
Hello. So then I was ordering the drink, the mocha frappuccino.
Yeah.
Then she looked at me and she said, mocha frappuccino? I said, no, mocha. Yeah. Then finally the time comes, she asked me, what's your name? I say, my name is Santhanaram. You got anything shorter or not? Then I said, no, my name is Ram. How you spell, lah? I said, R-A-M. This one Ram, lah. You know, Ram, Moo. And I'm like, what Moo? Shouldn't it be man? And then she corrects me and said, no, your name should be R-U-M.
Your name should be.
Yeah, spelling R-U-M. Rum. Rum. No wonder many people always associate Indians with alcohol.
Because the name, yeah, Ram.
Rum.
Yeah.
Now I wonder Shivas.
I have a question regarding the comedy side, right? What goes through your mind? Okay, I think you mentioned something way in the beginning of this where you're self-deprecating jokes, right? You also mentioned way on early in the episode that it's about as a comedian you can't take yourself too seriously. You can't be perfect. I think was it what you mentioned?
I mean, at the end of the day, you had to find a way to laugh at your own jokes,
right?
And not to take things too seriously.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think I fall under that category where I think I tend to take myself too seriously, and I don't want to be perfect. I know it's impossible, but I aspire to be my best version.
Simple. Just look yourself in the mirror. Just lift your eyebrows up and down.
And what does that do?
You tend to smile. If you don't smile, means you're thinking too much.
Okay.
So a lot of times we take ourselves a bit too seriously. Maybe is there too much of guilt beating that you have to be too perfect? Because at the end of the day, humans have got their own flaws and limitations. Not saying that we have to live with those flaws and just put it on our shoulder and then tell the whole world they've got all these flaws. But what can you do about it? So many people turn those flaws into an opportunity. They turn their sad stories and make it an opportunity for them
to inspire others.
Other people. So you take your limitations and you use your imagination, and things start to manifest. So it's about how do we make the best out of it.
Right. And for me, but I think that's also one of the reasons why I find that I'm not very funny, or I can't really make jokes, because it's like I need to be spot on, and I'm afraid to fail.
But you're not funny.
Thanks, bro. I mean, that's personal, man. Damn.
No. What I'm trying to highlight is that because you say that you're not funny, but actually there are also times that you make people laugh.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we have no idea what we do, but sometimes we make people laugh, but we tell ourselves that we're not funny. So you're giving yourself a command saying that I'm not funny. And then your mind is slowly starting to accept it and believe it, that you're not funny.
Right.
And if you keep telling you're not funny, yeah, you are not funny. But the moment when you change that narrative,
right,
you can be funny if you want to. Anybody can be funny.
It's like the same thing that you say, conditioning.
Yeah. Because some people can be funny looking.
That's another...
See, it's actually a play of words.
Yeah.
So the same thing works with comedy or writing. It's the words that we're using, and how do we use the words that people can relate to.
Right.
So everyone has got this potential of sharing a joke, and even if it's least expected, they just tell a truth, and they know that timing. And if they can remember that timing, you make more people laugh.
Right.
So matter of practice, be more observant, writing down. So it's a habit that you keep on doing. You write as much as you can. I didn't have that habit so much. Even when I started doing comedy, I thought that I can wing it.
Right.
But the more I got deeper into it, I realized that you have to write and see yourself. It's dreadful to watch yourself when you do a show. Even you think that you killed it, you did very well, and you watch the video again, you feel like, oh God, this guy's not funny at all.
Really?
Yeah, there are times that I saw myself, and I kind of dread watching, even though I made a lot of people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to critique yourself, you
Yeah.
find that, oh, there's a better way to write that joke, but you still have to be proud that you still made some people laugh.
Mm.
And that's what I do is just go there. At least I make some people laugh, and as many people who come in my space or contact space,
Yeah.
at least I told one joke that made them laugh.
Right.
And then you find ways to create more material. See, like this, you create more material. The spring is in my way.
I totally relate to that from the perspective of doing this podcast. Like, for me, I look back at the first few episodes and I'm like, cringe, man. I'm like, damn, what the hell was I doing? I was like a robot, basically. But then, like you said, I had to come to the realization that, hey, as long as my goal right from the start was, as long as somebody, just one person, gets inspired from the conversations, that's a job done for me, right? And so it applies the same in your
same thing.
industry?
So like the very first time when you did a gig, you did a speech. The very first time when you did your task, you did it once, but then you did it a second, third time. You found a better way to do it.
Yeah.
So the same thing works with like the videos that you had.
Right.
The initial ones that we did may not look so nice, but you have to always acknowledge that you took the first step to put those videos out there.
Yep.
And you put it in a space to be watched by so many people. And people can like, dislike, comments, leave hatred, remarks, what not. They can actually do whatever they want. But it must not let you stop your spirit from doing it. And doesn't matter what age, that you are putting your videos out there. There's no restriction that you're 5 years old, 10 years old, 20, 50, 60, 100, whatever age it is. That should not be a hindrance to stop you from putting a message out there.
Right.
So it's doing it, and then okay, some things some people like, some things people don't like. Let's now try to focus on the things that people gravitate towards. So when you find that balance, you can find a connection. So it's like the Japanese term ikigai.
Ikigai, yeah.
So you try to find a conversion between your vocation, your passion. I think I can't remember the other two, but it's somewhere around there. You have to search for it. But somehow or another, when you look at, it's like the word passion comes from the word pati, which is suffer.
Okay.
So there's something that we are suffering. But when we turn our profession and our passion and we fuse it with the vocation, what is it that people want? What does the world need? When you start to find
those pieces
together,
yeah,
you'll find a sweet spot. Another short thing is called the aim, the ability, interest, and the market.
Okay.
So ability means what we are good at doing. Interest is what we love to do.
Yeah.
And we find the market is there a market for it?
Right.
That we can offer that service. Then once you find that sweet spot, then we start to expand on it.
Right.
So that's how you turn things around. So like for me, I use illustrations to draw, to explain to people. That's a strength.
Right.
I love to do it, but there's also a need that people can relate and see the information. So the more I'm now drawing, the feedback that I'm constantly getting is that thank you for making the class easier to understand.
Oh, okay, that's nice. Yeah.
And so there's validation.
Yep.
Not going out there to constantly search that I want the validation, but it's good to hear this. So at least you know that what works.
Yep.
And then you find a way to strengthen and sharpen the sword.
Yep.
So when you sharpen the sword, you know that you have this weapon. But a sword in a coward's hand is also useless.
It's never going to swing it.
Yeah. So you got to have also that gumption to do, that courage to stand up and to wield that sword, and also to fight. So a lot of times in situations, it's not to fight, but it's to challenge whatever adversity that you have.
Overcome it.
And overcome it.
Right.
Because there's overcome the obstacle. If it comes your way, just move on. So and good on you, man. We had these 3 videos, and I believe you should watch all his other videos.
Oh, thanks.
Very inspiring, and he lives by his brand.
I try.
Inspire you too. That means no, but it's true because He's a very good person in terms of giving a listening ear.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay. Since you mentioned listening here, for those of you guys, probably this will be the first time for even the closest of my friends, but one of the big reasons why I'm also doing this podcast with guests is because I think about a year or 2 years ago, I consulted Ram here and I asked him regarding like, hey, could you give me some advice in terms of my profession, what I should do, what's my niche topic? And he asked me one simple question: what is your greatest strength? And I thought about it for like a couple of minutes, and then I told him my greatest strength, I believe at the moment, is just listening, right? And so because of that, from that moment, since he made me realize that my greatest strength is listening, I thought, hey, doing a podcast where I interview guests and listen to their problems and ask them, not listen to their problems, what did I say problems?
No, I'll share you a story that also relates to that then in a short while.
Yeah.
About listening.
Yeah.
But go ahead, man.
Yeah, so listening to their experiences, their stories, and then after that, asking questions to probe them so that, maybe not just myself can get inspired, but the viewers and the streamers can get inspired. So it kind of fits, and it all really started from a lot to do with that advice that you gave. So a big thank you to that for the listening, man.
And talking about the listening, there was a friend of mine who works in this very famous 24-hour shopping center.
Right.
Would mention the name. So this is this friend of mine has got a big stomach and all that, but he's a very very nice guy. So he actually meets about 30 to 40 of the staff that has got a problem, and I'm like, wow, every day you meet 30, 40, and he says that quite a number of them actually find a solution to their problems, and I'm like, wow, how do you do it? And I said that you have come up with all this solution. He said, no, I don't come with any solution. Then I'm like, sorry, what? He said, no, I just listen. They will just come up with their own solution, and they just wanted a listening ear. So what I do is I'll bring my tea, I'll just put it down there, they'll tell their story, and I will just listen. And they'll just walk away finding their solution, and they'll think that I give them a solution.
But he was actually all them.
But it was all them. So,
Right.
But he actually shared something which was very much needed in society, is actually giving their listening ear. And not many people want to share their stories, but they just do not have that space and avenue. So if you feel that you want to talk and share a lot, right, go to your nearest old age home and speak to some of the older people there, because they also want to connect. And you can actually practice your listening ear with them, because there's so many stories that you can hear from them that would enrich your soul and your life. So a shout out to people in the older community, older folks. Go out there and meet them, and you'll be so amazed that you're looking for content, they got the content for you.
Yeah, man. I mean, their experiences, my experience with my grandparents and hearing their stories, it's crazy, man.
Priceless.
Priceless.
Imagine last time when the toilet system and all that, they used to carry their own
Bucket. Yep.
poop.
All right, man. I think that about covers and wraps up everything.
Everything.
So, I think before we end, like I mentioned in last couple of episodes, it's about a call to action. So for this episode, I just want to ask, if you have a message for people out there who's looking for creativity, who's looking for a happy and fulfilling life through comedy, what would your message be to them? What would you ask? What would you say to them?
You can make the difference.
Nice.
Yeah, you can. It's all within you. You just have to dig deeper.
That's the keyword today, yeah?
Yeah, and find it within your soul. And everyone has got a beautiful purpose in life. And just find that and just make the difference. You can do it.
Yep. So, it's really up to you if you guys want to make the most out of your life, if you guys want to have fun overcoming all the challenges that come to you towards life in life, right? And so if you guys think that Ram here has really shared a lot of insightful and wonderful golden nuggets, he also has his own YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
So you can head on to that.
Come on, man. There's about 500 subscribers. I need another maybe 9 million more.
So subscribe to him for more of his videos and content. It's a great. Congratulations on reaching 500 subscribers.
Oh, thanks, man.
No problem. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing,
Thank you so
man.
much, man.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And it's a pleasure to be. Remember to subscribe, like, and share, and leave a comment below.
Yeah, man. Thank you for plugging for me. All right, guys. So with that, I will see. Thank you once again for streaming and viewing, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Deep Culture Podcast. See you.
Oh, see you.
See you. All right.